Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. So if we imagine we've got the 25 metre pipe here, and we've got the 35 metre pipe here. The question's basically asking us what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length that will fit with the 25 metre and the 35 metre. And essentially what this question's asking is what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35. So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1 and 25 and 5 and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 metre pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 metre long, and there's no wastage. And that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 metres. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts, so plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets, so 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. So we're asked to find angle BCE, and that is going to be this one here, because you start at B, go to C, and then go to E, and it's the angle you make. And I might just choose a different colour, because we've already got red on here. So we're looking for this angle here. Now, my advice for these kind of questions is always just try and work your way around the shape with angles you know. So, for instance, I'm going to start with this angle here, and we're going to call this angle ADC. And we know that that must be 79 degrees, and always write down the reason, and we know it is because that is an isosceles triangle. So if you look, we've got an isosceles here, this one, and this one, and the bottom 2 angles, and I use the word bottom because I always imagine an isosceles as being this way up. The bottom 2 angles in an isosceles are always equal, so that must be 79. Now we've got 2 of the 3 angles in the triangle, and the last one is going to be angle DCA. And to work out what this angle is, we're going to take it away from 180. We're going to do 180, take away the 279s we've just worked out. And the reason for that is angles angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. Okay, so when we do that, we do 180, take away the 158, and we're left with 22 degrees. So we know that this is going to be 22 degrees. And now we can actually work out angle BCE, because it's going to equal angle DCA. And the reason for that is they are vertically opposite angles. So that's just going to equal 22 degrees. Now, it is really common for these types of questions for you to get maybe 1 or even 2 marks for the answer, but 1 or 2 marks normally for the reasons and for the explanations. In fact, I've seen quite a few exam questions where you get 2 marks for the reasons and only 1 mark for the answer. So the first thing we need to do is work out the mean for the data in the table. So to start off doing that, we're going to work out the midpoint of each group. So we've got 80 to 85, and to find the midpoint, you add the 80 and the 85 together, then you divide by 2. So this will be 82.5, then 87.5, then 92.5, then 97.5, and then finally 100 plus 105 divided by 2 is 102.5. Next we need to find the FT, which is just the frequency times the duration of calls. Now, in this first group, we're not timesing it by 80 to 85 or anything like that. We're timesing it by the midpoint. So our midpoint effectively becomes the T. So we're going to do 15 times that, which will be 1237.5. And we're just going to keep going and multiplying each of these together. And then finally 2050. Right, next we need to add up the frequencies and add up the FTs. So we're going to have the sum of the frequencies. So I'm just adding all this column up, and that will be 80. And we have sum of the FT. And so we're going to just add this column up here. And so that would be 7,450. So what this column represents is all the numbers added up together. This column represents how many numbers we have. So to find the mean, it's all of the numbers added together, which will be 7,450, over the amount of numbers we have, which is 80. So when you do that, we get 93.125. Now this question is about the improvement that we've made, or that the manager has made, the call centre's made. So we're looking at subtracting the 93.125 away from the last week, which was 105. So we're looking for improvement. And we're going to do 105, take away the 93.125. And that's going to be 11.875. Now it does ask for 2 decimal places, so that will be 11.88. So factorise means to put it into a bracket, and it looks like it's a quadratic here, but it's actually just a linear factorising, because we don't have a number term. So we're going to just use one bracket for this. And looking at these terms, I'm going to focus first on the numbers. So 20 and 30, I can divide both of those by 10, and that will leave 2 and 3. So that's the numbers done. Next I'm looking at the t terms. So we've got t squared there and a t there. So we can divide out a t, but that will leave a t on the first term. And finally I'm going to look at the u, and there's just a u on both of them. I can factorise out, and actually that just leaves nothing on the inside of the bracket. Now, always when you do this, expand the bracket to check if you've made any mistakes. So I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. There's loads of different methods. So 10 times 2 is 20, t times t is t squared, and then the u, plus 10 times 3 is 30, times t times u. So we know we've got the right answer. So our answer is 10tu brackets 2t plus 3. The formula for an exterior angle for a regular polygon is 360 divided by the amount of sides. Now here we're given the fact that the exterior angle is 30 and we're looking for n, so we just need to rearrange the equation. We can times both sides by n. And then divide both sides by 30. And so we've got n equals 360 divided by 30. And when you do 360 divided by 30, we get the answer of 12. So it's a 12-sided shape. So with each of these pools, try and imagine it being filled. So pool A, first of all, we've got water coming into it, and it's actually going to go quite quickly initially, and then it will hit a point at the end where actually it will go really quite slowly because it's a wider pool. So we would imagine that the graph for pool A would actually go quite quickly at the start, and then at the end it would go much slower. And that doesn't really describe, the red graph doesn't really describe that at all. So for pool B, we start off actually quite quickly because it's quite thin, and then we have a wider bit here, so it will go slower here, and then we go quickly again. So we need a graph that starts off quite quickly, then goes slowly, and then goes quickly. And the steeper the graph on our depth time graph, the faster it's filling up. And that red line doesn't really describe that either. Pool C, however, we can see it goes slowly at the start. And then because it's thin, it will go quicker. So nice quickly. And then it will go slowly again. Well, that is a perfect description of the graph that we're given. So the graph we're given is definitely going to be for pool C. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area of the trapezium. And the formula for that is half brackets a plus b times h. Now a and b have to be the parallel sides. So here we've got the two parallel sides here, which just pick a different colour, here and here. So that is a and b. And then the h is the perpendicular distance between them. So perpendicular means it hits it at right angles, so that's what we've got here. So the area would be half times a, which is 28, plus b, which is 14, times the height, which is 14. And so that would be 294. Next we'll do the circle. Now it doesn't look like we've got anything for the circle, but actually the height here is actually the height of the circle as well. So the height of the circle is the same as the diameter. So the diameter of the circle is 14, therefore the radius would be half of that, which is 7, and the area of the circle is pi times the radius squared. So it would be pi times 7 squared, which will be 153.938 blah blah blah. Now keep that in my calculator, because next thing we'll do is the shaded area part, and it says we want to work out the area of the shaded region. So the area will be the total area, which will be the trapezium, take away the area that we don't want, which is this bit here, which will be the circle. So the trapezium's 294, the circle's 153.93 blah blah blah, and when you do that you get 140.061 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it would be 140.06. So we're given a right angle triangle here, and we're asked to find length AC, which is this length here, and we're given the two other lengths, so we're going to be using Pythagoras. Pythagoras involves us labelling the sides A, B and C, with C being the one opposite the right angle. And we know Pythagoras is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Both A and B here are 4.9, so it'd be 4.9 squared plus 4.9 squared equals C squared. So we're going to add the 4.9 squareds together, and that will give us 48.020 blah blah blah. And here we're going to do a bit of solving. So we're going to square root both sides to find out what C is. So square root of 48.020 blah 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 is 6.929 blah blah blah. Rounded to two decimal places, this will be 6.93. So to find the locus of points that are 10 centimeters away from a point, you need to measure 10 centimeters on a pair of compasses, and then you put the point at A and draw them. Now I'm going to try my best to do this. It's probably not going to look perfect, but I'll do my best. And the length here, which is supposed to be, probably isn't exactly, but this part here is going to be 10 centimeters to get the full marks, and obviously you want the circle to be a little bit nicer than the one I've drawn, but try and get it as perfect as you can. And the best way of doing that is just don't push down too much and just move the page around with your compass being stationary. The volume of any prism is found by working out the area of the cross section and timesing it by the length. So we're given the cross section here is 92, and the length is basically how 3D the prism is, so that's going to be times 4, so that's going to be 368, so 368 centimeters cubed. So we're going to start by understanding that all lines form or can form an equation y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. It says here the gradient is -2, so we've already got a bit of a head start with this, but we don't know what the y-intercept is. So we're going to use this first set of coordinates to work out what the y-intercept is. So y is -31 and x is 15. And we're going to use this to solve and find out what c is. So first thing I'm going to do is, well, just tidy this up. 2 times 15 is 30, so -30 plus c. And I'm just going to add 30 to both sides to get c on its own. So that would be -1 equals c. So c is -1. So we now know that the equation is y equals -2x minus 1. And we're told that the y is -37. And we're looking for the x value, which they've called w. So let's get our solving lines in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. And so it would be -36 equals -2x. I'm going to now times, or divide everything by -2. And a negative divided by a negative is positive. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And then obviously that gets rid of the coefficient of the x, so it's just x. So x equals 18. So the x value is 18 and the x value is the w value. So w is 18. Something we know about rectangles is opposite sides are equal. So these two will be equal. And these two will be equal. And you notice now that we've got simultaneous equations. So what I'm going to do is get the coefficient of the y the same. And I'm going to do that by multiplying everything in the second equation by 3. So we get 6x plus 9y equals 123. And I'm just going to write in the first equation underneath, because with simultaneous equations we work downwards. Now looking at the signs, they are the same, and the S in same is the S in subtract. So we're going to subtract going downwards. We're just going to subtract going downwards. So 6x take away 3x is 3x. 9y take away 9y is nothing, which is good. That's what we need. And then 123 take away 93 is 30. We're going to get our solving lines in, and we're just going to divide by 3 both sides. So we've got x equals 10. So we know what x is, but we need to find out what y is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick one of the equations. I can pick the 2x plus 3y equals 41, and just substitute the value of x in. So 2 times, instead of x, it's times 10, plus 3y equals 41. So it would be 20 plus 3y equals 41. Get my solving lines in. And we're going to take away 20 both sides. So we've got 3y equals 21. And then we're going to divide by 3 both sides, if I don't run out of room. So y equals 7. So we've got x equals 10, y equals 7. Now I could check that with the first equation as well. So 3 times 10 is 30, 9 times 7 is 63, 30 plus 63 is 93. So we know we've got it right. First thing we need to do is work out the volume of this prism, and it's a trapezium-based prism. So the volume will be the area of the cross-section, or area of the trapezium, times the length, how 3D the prism is. So trapezium is half a plus b h, and then times the length. Now A and B are the 2 parallel sides, which will be this one and this one. And then the H is the perpendicular line that hits both of them at 90 degrees, which is what perpendicular means, between the bases. So this will be the 25 meters here. So it's going to be half, and then we're going to add 1 and 5, times that by 25. The length is how 3D it is, so it would be that 10 there. So we're going to times that by 10. And that will give us 750. So it's 750 meters cubed. Now, there is a little formula we can make for the rate. So the rate of anything, for this, will be the volume gained over time. Now, with this question though, we're interested in the time it will take. It says how long will it take. So we're actually looking at the time. So it will be time equals the volume, which is 750, over the rate, which is 15. So 750 divided by 15 is 50. So it will take 50, and let's have a look. It says per minute. So it would be 50 minutes. We don't have to for this question, but it might be helpful to draw a Venn diagram for this. And we've got green and brown leaves. So we'll have green on the left and brown on the right. So green and brown. And we're told that there are 19 green and 15 brown and 6 that were not green and brown. So the only number we can put in is the 6 on the outside of the Venn diagram. We're told that 19 are green, but we don't know which, either they're in here or a bit of both. So what we can do is we can label the center X, and we can say that there are 19 take away X just green, because they could have been both green and brown. And for the brown we can do the same, so it'd be 15 minus X. And for the next step, we know that all of them together add up to 32, because it says in the question. So we're going to add all of these, the 19 minus X, the 15 minus X, and the 6 together, and we know that equals 32. And let's get our solving lines in. So we've got minus x and minus x, so that's be a minus x. And we've got 19 plus 15 plus 6, which will be 40, equals 32. We're going to take away the 40 both sides. And we can just times by minus 1 both sides to make them both positive. So now we know x is 8, we can start filling in the Venn diagram. So it's 19 take away 8, which will be 11. X is 8, so we know that that's 8. And 15 take away 8, which is 7. So find the amount that were green and brown. We know it's going to be 8. So the first term will be 50 to the power of 1. Anything to the power of 1 is just itself, so that will just be 50. The next one will be 50 squared, so that's going to be 50 times 50, which would be 5 times 5 times 10 times 10, 25 times 100, which would be 250, 2,500 even. And then the last one is 50 cubed, so that's going to be the 2,500 times 50 again. And so when you times that out, you get 125,000. There are a few different ways you could answer this question. I'm going to do it with a tree diagram, but you didn't need to draw a tree diagram to answer this question. So we've got our first tree, which is our first bus. And the choices are male and female. And we've got our second kind of branch, I suppose. And it's still male and female. And this is our second bus. So the property of male on a first bus is 9 over 15. And therefore the property of female is 1 minus 9 over 15, which would be 6 over 15. Male on the second bus is 7 over 15. And so female would be 8 over 15, because they need to add up to 1. And it's independent, so these will be the same. And the question is basically asking what is the probability that both will be female. So to have both female, we need to have gone down this line at the start, and then this line again. Okay, so looking at the fractions along the way, it's 6 over 15 and 8 over 15. The word "and" in probability means times. So whenever you're finding the probability of getting to an outcome, so this outcome will be FF, because they're both female, you are multiplying the fractions that you go across. So it would be 6 over 15 times 8 over 15. So 6 times 8 is 48. And times the bottoms, 15 times 15 is 225. Now you can actually cancel that down. So what you can do is you can divide top and bottom by 4. And that will give you 16. Is it 4? No. You can times top and bottom by 3. And that would be 16 over 75. So either 48 over 225 or 16 over 75. Here we notice with the simultaneous equations, the coefficients of the x are different and the coefficients of the y are different. But if you look at the coefficients of the y, they are similar, because we've got a plus 4 here and a plus 8 here. So all we need to do is multiply the top one by 2. So we're going to do 2x plus 4y equals 2. And we're just going to multiply all of the terms here by 2 to get that second term, the 4y, to make it equal to 8y. So that's going to be 4x plus 8y equals 4. Then I'm just going to write out that equation we've just worked out, and then write out the second equation underneath. And now we have the same coefficients. So if we put in our circles, because obviously with simultaneous equations we work downwards, and we look at the signs now before the 8y's. So we've got a plus and a plus. Well, if they're the same signs, we subtract going downwards. If they are different signs, we add going downwards. The D in different, the D in add, the S in same, the S in subtract. Well, they're both pluses, so we're going to subtract. And so we're going to have 4x take away 3x, which is just x, 8y minus plus, which is just minus, so 8y minus 8y, which is 0, which was good. So that's the whole point, is to get rid of those y's. And we've got 4 take away 7, which is minus 3. So x is minus 3. Now we can't stop there because we need to find out what y is. So we substitute in the value of x, which is minus 3, into our first equation. So 2 times minus 3 plus 4y equals 2. We get our lines in to be able to solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do, well, 2 times minus 3 is minus 6. So we're going to add 6 both sides. And so we've got 4y equals 8. Then we're going to divide that 4 from both sides. So we've got y equals 2. We can check this by putting the values of x and y, substitute them into the second one. So 3 times minus 3 plus 8 times 2, and that does equal 7. First thing we need to do is find out what 10% of the 109 is. So we're just going to multiply by 0.1. And that gives us 10.9. So what we're going to do is we're going to add and subtract this from 109. So we're going to do 109 take away 10.9, which gives us 98.1. And then we're going to do 109 plus 10.9, which will give us 119.9. So our error interval is between 98.1, and it says to use t, and 119.9. So we're going to first of all find out how many potatoes were below 22 grams. So we're going to draw a line up at 22 and a line across, and that is 13. So there are 13 potatoes below 22 grams. And so to work out the probability of picking one below 22 grams, it's the amount that we have below that amount, or below that weight, over the total amount of potatoes, which will be 20. So it'd be 13 over 20, which is equal to 65 over 100, so that would be 65%. So we're going to start by labelling the sides here. So we've got capital A up here, little a down here. It doesn't matter which one you label. Capital B here, little b here, then capital C here, little c here. So you notice the C's aren't really involved at all, but we've got the two A's, we've got the capital A and the lowercase a, and we've got the capital B and the lowercase b as part of the question. And so when you've got a pair or two pairs of angle and sides, you are going to be using the sine rule. And so the sine rule says that sine capital A over lowercase a is equal to sine capital B over lowercase b. Now you might be wondering why I've put sine A and sine B at the top, when sometimes this is written as the lowercase a and lowercase b at the top. Well, if we're looking for the angle, which we are here, we're looking for capital A, you put the angles at the top. If you're looking for the length, you put the lengths at the top. Okay, so we're going to fill this in. So sine, we're just going to leave that as sine A, because it's just, or sine x actually, shouldn't it be? Sine x over, and then lowercase a is 6, equals sine B, the angle is 35, over lowercase b, which is 7. Okay, we're going to work out what the right hand side is. So that's going to be 0.081 blah blah blah. And then we're going to be solving this. And the first thing we're going to do is times by 6 both sides. So we get sine x is equal to 0.491 blah blah blah. And then we're going to inverse sine both sides. And so we have x equals 29.448 blah blah blah. and our answer wants to be rounded to 2 decimal places, so we're going to put our answer as 29.45 degrees. To find the distance or displacement on a velocity time graph, we're actually going to find the area underneath the graph. And to do that, we're going to split the graph into two. And we've got the trapezium on the left-hand side, and we've got this rectangle on the right-hand side. So to work out the area of the trapezium, we're going to do half A plus B times the height, and the two parallel sides are on the left and the right, so it's going to be half times this part here, which is 40, plus this point here, which is 160, and then the height is actually the width, so the height is this bit here, so it's going to be times 2. Those will cancel out, the half and the times 2, so that would be 200. And similarly, to work out the area of B, it's just length, width times length. So that's going to be 3 wide, and again 160 tall. So 3 times 160, which would be 480. And so we need to work out the total area. And we do that just by adding the two together. So 200 plus 480, which will be 680. Since these rectangles are similar, it means that they have a scale factor. And we've got to first of all find out what the linear scale factor is. So what do we times 17 by to get to 144.5? So we do that by 144.5 divided by 17. And when we do that, we get the answer of 8.5. So our linear scale factor is 8.5, but our area scale factor will be the linear scale factor to the power of 2, because there's 2 dimensions with an area. So we're going to do 51 times 8.5 squared, which would be 3,684.75. So our answer is 3,684.75. An exponential growth would show an increase from left to right, but the graph we've got in front of us, or the sketch, is showing it decreasing, so it's going to be a decay. We're going to work out what the function fg is first, and functions actually queue up, so the first function will be g and then f. So we're going to first of all look at the function g, which will be 3x minus 3, and so it will be f of 3x minus 3. Okay, so all I've done there is fed in the x, which is inside the brackets, into the function g, and when you feed it in, it just becomes 3x minus 3, and it's even the same letter. Next, we want to feed in the 3x minus 3 into f of x, so where this x is here. So it's going to be 5 times 3x minus 3. Now the question actually has this equal to 30 and asked us to solve it. So we're going to get that equal to 30. So 5 brackets 3x minus 3 equals 30. So we're going to get our solving lines in. Okay, we're going to start off by actually dividing the 5 both sides. We don't need to expand the brackets. We can actually just get rid of it by dividing the 5. And that will give us 6. I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of that minus 3. And that will give us 3x on the left hand side and 9 on the right hand side. Then we're going to divide by 3 to get rid of that 3 before the x. So it just becomes x equals 3. So answer is 3. If we start by labelling the sides and angles on this triangle, so we can have capital A there, little a, capital B up here, little b, then capital C here and little c. So we don't have the angles A and B, and we don't have length C, but we do have little a, little b, and the angle C. And there's a nice little formula to work out the area of this triangle, and that formula is half A, B, sine C. It's a nice little formula. And so we're going to do half times A, which I've said is 5, times B, which I've said is 4, times sine the angle, which is 24. And when you work that out, you get 4.067 blah blah blah. And when we round that, we get 4.07. We're going to first of all find our target number by multiplying the coefficient of the x squared, which is 2, by the number on its own at the end, which is minus 25. So 2 times minus 25 will be minus 50. And the reason this number is special is because we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to make that minus 50. We're also looking for two numbers that add together to make the coefficient of the x, that positive 5 there. So, looking at the fact that they add together to make a positive, well, any numbers that times together and they end up with a negative are going to be different signs. So we know one of them is a positive and one of them is a negative. And so what I'm going to do is write down all the factors of 50 or minus 50 that are different signs. So we've got, let's have a think, we've got minus 1 and 50. We've got minus 2 and 25. We've got minus 5 and 10. And then we've just got the exact same things but the other way around. So 2 and minus 25 and 5 and minus 10. You don't need to write all of these down. If you know what the answer is going to be, you can just go straight there. And we're looking for two numbers that add together to make 5. So what I'm going to do is just put an add here. And we're just going to look through all of these and figure out which one adds together to make 5. Well, minus 5 plus 10 is going to be 5. So it's this pair here. So it's going to be minus 5 and positive 10. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite the question, but instead of a plus 5, I'm going to substitute in, I'm going to put in the minus 5 and the positive 10, or in this case minus 5x plus 10x. Okay, so I've just changed the plus 5x for a minus 5x plus 10x, but those do add together to make plus 5x, so I've not changed the question. And I'm going to be looking at the first two terms, and I'm going to be looking at the second two terms separately. Now you might be wondering why I've put minus 5x plus 10x and not plus 10x minus 5x. If you have the choice, always put the negative one first. Okay, it just makes it a bit easier. It means you're not dealing with negatives as much. So looking at the first box, I'm going to put down my bracket. I'm going to factorize it linearly. So we're just looking, there's no numbers that 2 and minus 5, so it's just an x. And we've got 2x and minus 5. Second box, well, they both can be 5, so it's going to be plus 5 on the outside. That would be 2x minus 5. Now notice something here, that these brackets are the same. If they're not the same, you've made a mistake. So we're going to write down the bracket there. And for the other bracket, it's just the bits left over, the bits on the outside. So the x and the plus 5 will make up that second bracket. So our answer is x plus 5, 2x minus 5, or the other way around. So you could write bracket 2x minus 5, close bracket, bracket x plus 5, close bracket. So we're told that y is inversely proportional to the cube root of x. And to get rid of this proportionality sign here, we just convert it to an equals and times the right hand side by k, which represents a constant. And we now need to figure out what that constant is. So we're going to feed in the value of y and x that's given to us in the question. So we've got 10 equals k over the cube root of 343. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve that. So put our lines in. Now the cube root of 343 is 7. So we can actually just, it's a lot easier. And we're just going to times both sides by 7. So k equals 70. And we're just going to rewrite this. But instead of k, we're just going to write 70. So y equals 70 over the cube root of x. We're going to start by creating a table of frequencies from this histogram. And so we are going to need our times, first of all, then our frequencies, and then we can add a midpoint and an fx column as well, which we'll need for later. So our times, then our frequencies, then our midpoints, then we'll do the fx later on. Right, so the first group is 0 to 10. And to find the frequency, well, I might as well just show this. So the frequency density is proportional to the frequency over class width. The class width here is 10, and the frequency density is 1.2. So 10 times 1.2 will be 12. And then the next group is up to 30. So we're doing 20 times 3.2. which will be 64, and then the final one will be 30 to 50. So again, we're doing 20 times 0.8, which will be 16. Okay, so we've got our table from the histogram, and we're asked to find the mean, so hence us doing the midpoint, etc. So the midpoint is 5, 20, and 40, and then the fx, we just times these together, and that would be 60, 1280, and 640. Now, something I said earlier is that the frequency density is proportional to the frequency divided by class width. It does tell us there are 92 people, and if you do the sum of the frequencies, you do get 92. So we know that it's a one-to-one relationship. Okay, so let's do the sum of the fx by adding up these numbers here, and you get 1980. So to find the mean, we do the sum of fx over the frequency, sum of the frequencies, and that will give us 21.521, blah blah blah, and 2 decimal places, which is what the question asks for. It's 21.52. I'm going to first of all just focus on this rectangle here. And we know that to find the area of a rectangle, you multiply the two lengths. And when you've multiplied them for this rectangle, we get 697. But let's write down what A is equal to. And A will be equal to the area, which is 697, divided by the length at the top, which is x plus 30. Now let's focus on the other square, or the other rectangle, and this time we have A equal to the area of it, which is 1870, divided by the 10x. Now because both of these are equal to A, we can actually just get both of these fractions equal to each other. And what we can do is work out what x is going to be. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my lines in, because we are looking to solve. This is probably going to take a while. And I'm going to times both sides by the x plus 30, so I can get rid of the denominator on the left hand side. And so this will just be 697 on the left hand side, because that gets rid of the denominator. And it would be 1870 times x plus 30, and then all of that over 10x. Same thing again, but I'm going to get rid of the denominator on the right hand side, so I'm going to times both sides by 10x. So we've got 697 times 10, which would be 6,970x, because it's 10x. And it won't actually do anything to the right hand side, but I am going to expand the top, the numerator. It just gets rid of the denominator. So let's expand while I'm here. So that would be 1,870x plus, was it 56,100? I believe that's right. Yep. Okay, so now we've got x's on both sides. So we look and see which one is the smaller amount of x, which is the 1,870. And we're going to take that away from both sides. So take away 1,870x from both sides. And that will leave 5,100x on the left hand side. And then obviously we've got the 56,100 on the right hand side. And we want to get rid of the 5,100, so we're just going to divide both sides by 5,100. And so we've got x equals 11. So now we know x is 11, we can pick one of the equations that we had at the start, and I'm just going to pick the first one, and we can just feed in the value of x. So a equals 697 over, instead of x, it's going to be 11 plus 30. And when you do that, you get the answer of 17. So A is 17. So to find the shaded part of this diagram, we need to first of all work out the volume of the smaller cone, which is at the top. Then work out the volume of the larger cone, which is the whole cone shown, and then take them away from each other. So the radius for the smaller cone is 4 and the height is 5. And the radius for the larger cone is 20 and the height is the 20 plus the 5, so it would be 25. So I'm just going to label them A and B. And so why don't we work out the volume for B first? And the formula for the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h, with h being the perpendicular height. So it's 1/3 times pi times 20 squared times 25, which is going to be 10,471.975, blah blah blah. We're going to work out the volume for A, and this time it will be 1/3 times pi times the radius now is 4, and the height is 5. So that will be 83.775, blah blah blah. So to work out the shaded bit, we're just going to do the volume for B, take away the volume for A. So it's going to be 10,471.975, take away 83.775. And all those I'm going to keep in the calculator to keep the accuracy. And that gives us 10,388.199, blah blah blah. And to two decimal places, it's going to be 10,388.20. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.